Hello and welcome to day, what is it, 11? I think it's day 11. Today we are going to paint holly, which can be a little bit tricky sometimes. I actually went ahead and painted this one first just so I could get a feel for it. And now we have a sort of reference photo here. This is my painting. And we're going to follow a similar idea. I might do a few adjustments to this one. I used white pen for the white, but we might use some bleed-proof white. I didn't like how it looked on there, but to get the light leaves to look waxy like they are, we need add some white areas. And I might use the bleed-proof white for that. So, but we'll play with that as we go. I also didn't finish doing the details on this, but we'll do that in a minute when we do ours. We just wanted to get a basic idea. When I do this, I sketched loosely where I want I'm trying to figure out where I can put this so we can see it. I'll just put it right there. That works, right? Okay. I did loosely sketch roughly where I want the stem to go and the leaves and the berries because the leaves kind of cover the stem in spots and the berries are in front of or behind some leaves, so it's just helpful to have some idea of where you want the stem to go. And it doesn't need to be perfect. And then just a rough sketch of a berry, or 4 rather. And then we can decide which ones are going to stick out, which ones are going to be covered, and which ones we'll see completely. So just very rough. Really, the leaves you don't have to sketch out because we can do those. We can make changes to those as we go. We just need to make sure they're pointy and we can adjust which way they're facing. I am looking at a photo on Unsplash as a guideline just to get the right shapes for our leaves. But really it's just a matter of getting those pointy bits. I do not know the technical term for all this, but we want to get a little point sticking out, and we want to use a couple of different colors of green. The leaves are kind of this, I used this, my Undersea green mixed with some of the Quinacridone gold just to get that olivey green yellowish color for the base. And then I dropped in some of the darker Perylene green for the darker shadowy bits. And so we're just going to get started. I'm using my round 4 for the leaves, at least to get started. We'll use the liner to get more fine point on our points. But for just getting started, let's go ahead and pull out some of this green. I'm gonna go ahead and get some of the Perylene green ready to go as well. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of this Quinacridone gold that I don't think you can see in the camera, but it's over here. And I'm just bringing it over to our green over here. Okay, so for the holly, we're going to start with the leaves. We'll fill in our stem after we get the leaves because we might need to make adjustments to our stem depending on where our leaves land. And then we're just going to try to avoid where the berries are. But we can also make adjustments there if necessary. So I'm going to start with this one here. And I'm just going to go up and I'm going to add like a point. Kind of like making very, very pointy waves. They can be different levels of pointiness. It doesn't matter kind of how they go. I'm going to fill this space in for this half. And then we'll do the other half. They do not need to be symmetrical. It's actually better that they aren't. Most of the leaves do not appear to be symmetrical in my picture. So we're just going to add some points in. Okay, while that is wet, I'm going to pick up the Perylene green and I'm going to drop it in, especially near the points. Along the sides, it's generally a bit lighter in the middle. The line that goes up the middle, the vein, is a lighter area. And a lot of along the points, it's a bit darker, except in areas where the waxiness is reflective with the white, which we will add at the end with our bleed proof white. Because that's just one of the easier ways to do that. Barely touching here so that I can get those points. I don't want to overfill it too much. We want to have, multiple colors in there. So spreading it around a bit, but we're going to leave it like that. And then we will move on and add another leaf down here. I'm going to go back again and do that lighter green for the color. I'm going to give a little idea of the stem coming off of here. And then we'll just add in our bits. I am looking a little bit at a picture so I can just kind of get an idea of some various shapes that these leaves might take. Some of the points stick out a lot further. Sometimes it's barely there. Some of them are further away from each other. That's why it's helpful to look at a picture sometimes. All right. And some of these we can extend our points when we add in our dark green. Again, while it's wet, I'm going to drop in the green because I want it to spread out. We're going to start at the points. Over here. I want this half is a lot darker. We'll add in a bit more of that green. Oops, sticking in the wrong color. Just a little bit more here. Okay. Trying to leave some of that lighter green visible, but it can go kind of either way. Okay, and then we have another leaf up top here. This one goes behind the berry. And so I'm just going to kind of start here. And I'm just trying to add in a few points here and there. Some areas the points are easier to do, others are not. And then in the picture that I am looking at, there's actually a leaf on this side is covering the rest of this one. When I did this, the first draft, I did not do this leaf on this side over here. So we don't have to add it, but I think it might add a little something. It might be fun. So I will, I'm not gonna finish that leaf. I'm just leaving it kind of partially done there. And I will purposefully make sure that the next leaf covers that spot on the leaf there. And there's just a little bit of green over here. Just dropping in those colors. Can pull them around a bit. Okay. Yeah, it's actually this leaf here is supposed to cover that. I didn't, when I first painted it, I painted it at the wrong angle. It's supposed to start over here and kind of go up in that general direction. And then there's actually another leaf down here, which I don't think we're going to put in because I think it's going to run off the paper. And I don't really want to do that. I like how this one looks with five leaves, and the original had 6, but this worked out nicely. But I am going to try to angle this a bit more to cover some of that. This one is, it's also hanging in front of that stem there, and so it's supposed to be bigger, but when I painted it the first time, I made it a bit smaller on accident. So I'm going to try to make sure I do this one bigger. And this one, the leaf is behind the berry. It's behind this berry up front, but in front of this one I'm back here. So just something I'm going to kind of be aware of as I'm painting that. And I think I'm going to turn my paper a bit so that it's at the angle I want the leaf to go. And I'm going to start with a very tiny little sharp point there. This one's going to come up. I do want this one to come around here, and then there's like a point here. Okay, sorry. Another thing is it's tricky sometimes when I'm looking at my picture to see which way it's supposed to go based on what we already have. So I am just going to fill this in because we don't want it to like be noticeably an outline, and if I wait too long to fill it in, it will look like an outline. And then we'll come over to this side. Okay, and that worked. I'm actually going to add another little stem there because I think it looks a little iffy there. Okay, and so now we're going to take that dark green and add it all in here, especially at the points. This whole side is a little bit darker. It's a little darker down here, the base where the berry is. A few more points here. Okay, sorry, and this one, these didn't curve as much as I like them to, but that's okay. All right, so there's our 4 leaves. We're going to add a 5th leaf down here, and then we can let those dry and work on the berries and stem. So this one's going to come down here, and it actually goes under the one we've already got on there. If we're sticking with the picture. Like I said, we can make it our own way. It doesn't have to go there. And this one is slightly unique in that it doesn't have as many points on the one side of the leaf. And that is how it appears in the picture. And so I wanted to try to kind of include that because it's unique. But you can make yours as pointy as you want. Add or remove the points, but we're just going to fill in the leaf as much as possible before it dries. It's getting a little farther than I would like it to, but that's okay. And then we're going to add in that darker green. And this leaf actually has a lot of the dark green, especially along these edges here. This whole half is darker. And then it's just got the points. Okay. Okay, so there are our leaves. Before we add any other details, we could add a few more dark areas if necessary. We'll add some white for the shine from the waxiness of these leaves. But let's go ahead and do some of these berries in the areas that are dry or not touching anything. We can actually do, you know what, let's quickly do the stem first, because the stem doesn't really touch much of the wet areas. This leaf has been here for, the stem has been done for a while. Start there. We've got a little thin stem, and then we have this one coming from here. All right, and so that you can't really see where the stem is coming from exactly. Be careful here because some of that might still be a little wet, but overall, you can add some of that brown to that stem. And even down here it's okay if some of that hits that green bit. Because there might be some brown in the stem. Okay. Can actually make that a tiny bit thicker. We'll add some of our green to that as well, because the stem has a bit of green in it. Okay. So now we want to do our berries, and I'm going to use the red, a cadmium red, for most of it. Now we are going to have highlights in our berries, and you can either kind of try to paint and avoid like a middle section in there for your highlight, or we can add it back in later with the bleed-proof white. I'm actually going to, I think just for the practice right now, try to do a little bit of both. So, like I'll do leaving it white there for that one, but then I'll do one where we fill it all in and we'll add bleed-proof white, maybe with this one here. And then we can just kind of compare how they look and see which method you prefer. It might be good to do a combination of both, where we have like a bit of white that we leave behind, but then we also might have to touch it up with some bleed-proof white. Sorry, I gotta pay attention to where I'm painting with my brush so that I'm not extending out of the lines too much. Okay. So there are those. I will say, as far as with the highlights, it might be nice to add a tiny bit of some yellow and spread that out a little bit. Near the highlight, we can add we'll add the bleed-proof white in there too to help later. Add some yellow on there too. Okay, we're also going to add in a little bit of a darker area for the shadow on our berries to give them more of that three-dimensional look. So I'm going to use this red, which I have previously mixed with some of the Perylene green. I'll even pull in a little bit more to show you. Adding the complement green is a complement of red. tones down that red and starts to add kind of a brownish muddy color, but it also makes a really good shadow color. And so here we'll just go ahead and add in some of that down here at this bottom area. Maybe a tiny bit up top here. Still a little wet, but I'm going to drop that in along there. This one has the shadow down here. And there's a tiny bit above the highlight, and then this one is more shadowed all along this edge here and even up there. So you can wet your brush, dry it a little bit, wiping it off, and then kind of try to spread some of that color out a little bit, but not too much. Okay. I will say this little stem could be a little bit thicker there. Okay, one little thing on a couple of these berries is we have the little, just a little point, it's like the end of the berry. I'm going to use this sepia color and just add a little bit. There's one right here. It's a little bigger, finer point than I meant to. And then this one's more of a lighter color on this top berry here. And it's actually right above the highlight there. There we go. So we're gonna leave that, we're gonna let that dry a little bit. And then I think we're gonna go ahead and do a little bit of the bleed proof white on our leaves to do the veins and the highlights. So I'm going to get some white on my brush. I'm rinsing it off a little bit, and then I'm going to dab because I don't want it to be too opaque, too white. And I'm going to add a little bit just straight on here. Down the middle, but I'm not going all the way down. I'm just kind of doing a rough little bit there. And as I keep going, I'm actually running out of, it's not as opaque, and that's actually okay. It gives the hint of the line without being too bright. And then I'm going to get a little bit more of that white, rinse it off, tap it, and I'm going to do a few like highlights in a few areas, like right here. And all across here. It actually is okay if it looks like that, like if it's almost dry brush type technique, it's getting a little scratchy because it's not a solid white area on the leaves when it is giving these highlight areas. And they're just in various areas. It's not filling the whole leaf. Sorry, I need to rinse, tap. Some areas are more white highlights, some don't have as much. It just depends on the leaf and I suppose its position. We can also soften some of these lines after we paint them on, because that's the plus of using the bleed proof white as opposed to some other opaque white. If we used acrylic, for example, that would be harder to work with after, like it's not going to blend in, whereas this we can wet after we apply it and spread it around a bit so we can get more of a soft white color to our thing here. I'm gonna go just a little bit more highlight there. This one is a darker leaf and only has a touch of highlight here. And then this one over here has just a little bit here, some here. And then over here. Okay, and before I blend out and do other things, I'm going to go ahead and go in here and touch up some of these the highlights that I had on my berries. Some of them, like I said, this one I didn't even have any highlight because I figured we would do it entirely with the white. And some of them I added some yellow. I just want to extend a little bit. Okay. So now, let's take this round 4, and I'm going to go where the white is. I'm going to wet my brush. That's all I'm really doing with it. And I'm going to kind of blend out some of the white, soften it a bit. And it blends nicely. It acts a lot just like watercolor, except that it's got that opaque color, which lets us have the reflections. As we blend it out, it is softening the color of it as well. So if we want it to be more white, we will have to add some more bleed proof white back in afterwards. But sometimes it helps to have a layer that's like really soft and then add in some more of the harsh white lines after the fact. But for these, I think it looks pretty good. We might want to do a few more sharp details if we want it to look like the waxy effect. But for now, that looks pretty good. I'm going to add a few more shadowy bits to my berries as well. Some of those got away from me a bit. Yeah. This one needs to look like it's behind that leaf. Yeah. Okay. So that is overall pretty good. I'm just going to take a little bit of this white, the slightly larger brush, and I'm just going to go, it kind of looks like the white goes across the leaf here to this section. And I'm just touching up some of these to give them more of a waxy look, but that is just, it's very tricky to get just right. Again, I'm just gonna soften up those lines a tiny bit, but not too much because I don't want to lose how opaque they are. I don't want to blend it in too much with the surrounding area. But just soften a bit. And this would be fun to kind of play with a bit more and see how we can, what different things we can do with it. But for now, I think it gives us enough to know what we're working with. Okay. And so there is our holly. And you can see, you could do it without, like I didn't add the waxy bits on most of these leaves. I just added a touch of the white for the stem or the vein. And you can do that as well. I think even if you didn't add the white to make it more the waxy look, you can still tell that it's holly. You got the berries, and so you can choose to include that or not. But there is our holly. And I will see you guys tomorrow for day, what is it, 12? Day 12. Bye, y'all.